When I got promoted, finally, after 7 years of clawing my way up, I thought my family would be proud. Turns out I was just a convenient wallet they forgot to charge that night. I'd spent days planning the dinner. Booked a quiet corner table at this little place downtown with soft lighting and wine that didn't come in boxes. I sent reminders, group texts, even a little family joke to keep it casual. My mom replied with a thumbs up, my brother with a "we'll see." That should have been my first warning. But I ignored it, thinking maybe for once they'd show up just for me. The restaurant smelled like rosemary and roasted garlic. The host smiled when I said, "Table for 5, and led me to a spot near the window. I ordered a bottle of Cabernet my dad once said he liked, and I waited. 10 minutes. Then 30. The waiter checked in with that kind smile people use when they feel sorry for you. I kept saying, "They're on their way." 2 hours later I stopped pretending. My phone stayed silent. Not even a running late. The restaurant filled up, couples laughing, families toasting, and I just sat there watching the empty chairs like ghosts of every time I'd hoped for more. Eventually I ordered dinner alone. Salmon, mashed potatoes, and the most awkward glass of wine I've ever forced down. By the time the check came, my chest felt hollow. I tipped extra, apologized to the waiter like it was my fault my family had better things to do. Outside, the night air hit cold against my face and I finally let myself admit it. Maybe they never cared about celebrating me at all. The next morning, I woke up and reached for my phone before my eyes were even open. A part of me still hoped I'd see a flood of missed messages. Apologies, explanations, something. But the screen was blank. No texts. No missed calls. Just silence. I stared at it for a long time, trying to convince myself maybe they'd called the restaurant or lost signal. But deep down I knew better. That kind of silence has a sound. It hums in your chest, low and cold. Eventually I gave in and texted my mom. "Hey, what happened last night?" I waited for everyone at dinner. I watched the screen, waiting for the little typing bubbles. Nothing. Hours passed. I showered, dressed, drove to work. Still nothing. It wasn't until after lunch that her reply popped up. "We were exhausted after Dad's work thing. You know how it is." That was it. No sorry, no we'll make it up to you. Just a line that felt like a shrug. My brother, Mark, followed it up with a thumbs up emoji, like this was some group chat about leftovers, not the night I'd spent celebrating alone. At work, everyone was buzzing about my promotion. People stopped by my desk with smiles and coffee cups, saying how proud they were, how I'd earned it. I smiled back, said thank you, played the part. Inside I felt like glass, clear, fragile, and hollow. During the small celebration my team threw, someone asked if my family had gone all out. I laughed it off, said they'd been too tired. The words came out easy, practiced. I'd been covering for them my whole life. When the office finally emptied out, I sat alone, the glow of my monitor painting everything in blue light. I thought about every time I'd chosen them over myself. Picking up their bills, skipping vacations, sending money home when Dad's truck broke down, or when Mom forgot to pay the electric bill. I did all of it because I thought it meant something. Because I thought they saw me. But that night proved what I'd refused to face all along. I could climb mountains, work myself to exhaustion, build a life worth celebrating, and they still wouldn't bother to show up. A week slipped by, quiet and gray. Work kept me busy, but every night that memory, the untouched plates, the empty chairs, crept back like a bruise I couldn't stop pressing. Then one afternoon my phone buzzed with a Venmo notification. At first I thought it was a mistake. But when I opened it my stomach turned. $2,400. From my mom. The note read, "Dad's retirement party fund, red heart." For a second I just stared at it. My mind couldn't decide whether to laugh or throw the phone across the room. I could almost hear her voice saying it, sweet, expectant, as if she hadn't left me sitting alone at a restaurant like some stranger. The longer I looked, the funnier it got. My chest started shaking, not from amusement but from disbelief so sharp it almost hurt. After everything, the forgotten dinner, the silence, the fake excuses, they still wanted money. Not a call. Not a sorry. Just cash. I scrolled back through our messages, rereading her last text. We were exhausted. That was all the explanation I ever got. Now here she was, asking for a contribution to a celebration I didn't even know existed. Something inside me snapped. The sadness I'd been carrying all week turned to something colder. Clarity, maybe. I typed in the amount. 1 cent. Added a note. This should cover my seat at the party I wasn't invited to. My hands trembled as I hit send. It felt reckless and perfect. Like finally exhaling after years of holding my breath. Then I blocked her, the request, everything tied to that account. I sat there staring at the screen until the glow faded. It wasn't about the penny, it was the line I'd drawn, quiet but permanent. For once I didn't feel small. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt done. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. By morning my phone was lighting up non-stop. Message after message, each one angrier than the last. My mom's texts came first, long paragraphs dripping with guilt and accusation. How could you embarrass us like that? Do you have any idea how hurtful that was to your father? She wrote like I'd committed a crime, not sent a single penny to make a point. Then came Mark, always the family messenger. His tone was sharper, colder. You've really lost it, Tess. Mom's crying. Dad's furious. All because you can't let anything go. I could picture him pacing, performing his outrage for them, the golden sun protecting the family name. I ignored them both at first, hoping the silence would say what words couldn't. But then my dad's text appeared. A short, bitter line that stung more than all the rest. You're making everything about yourself again. For a long moment I just stared at it. The same man who never once asked how I was doing, who never showed up when it mattered, now accusing me of selfishness. I typed slowly, my hands steady for the first time in days. You already did that for me. Then I put my phone face down on the table. The buzzing continued for hours. Missed calls, unread messages piling up. I didn't open any of them. That evening I scrolled to the family group chat, the one filled with years of half-hearted jokes, forwarded memes, and the occasional guilt trip disguised as love. I deleted it without hesitation. The apartment was silent afterward. No notifications, no constant tug to explain myself. Just quiet. For the first time the silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I sat by the window letting the city hum outside, and realized I wasn't waiting for their approval anymore. I didn't need their voices to feel real. I had finally stopped chasing a family that never looked back. The quiet that followed brought memories I hadn't asked for. They came in flashes, like old photographs burned around the edges. Growing up I was always the capable one. That was the word they used. When Mark forgot homework, Mom stayed up helping him. When I aced a test, she said, "Of course you did. You're the strong one." Strength became their excuse for neglect. I was the fixer, the planner, the one who made everything run. When the bills piled up, I was the one they called. When the car needed repairs, I found the mechanic. Birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, I handled them all. Mark just had to show up and they'd beam at him like he'd invented family loyalty. One memory sticks sharper than the rest. Dad's birthday 10 years ago. I just started my first real job and was barely scraping by. Still, I saved $100. Money I didn't have, to buy him that fishing reel he'd always wanted. He opened it, smiled for half a second, then set it aside to brag about the fancy jacket Mark had bought with their money. That Christmas he handed me a gift in return. A coffee mug with faded lettering that read "World's Best Daughter." It still had a chip on the rim. He said, "Thought you'd appreciate something practical." I laughed then, but it wasn't funny. It was a reminder of my place. Useful, dependable, invisible. Sitting there now, I realized it had never been about one forgotten dinner or one cruel message. It was years of being the background character in my own family. I'd mistaken endurance for love, reliability for respect. They didn't treat me like the strong one because they admired me. They did it because it was easier than caring. The call came late, his name flashing across my screen like a warning. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. The moment I answered, Mark's voice hit hard. Sharp, defensive, already angry. "Do you have any idea how much you embarrassed Mom?" he snapped. "She's been crying for days because of your little stunt." I didn't speak right away. I'd learned that silence made him nervous. He filled it fast. "You didn't have to be petty about the party," he went on. "You could have just talked to us like an adult instead of making a scene." Kept my tone even. "A scene? You mean sending one penny after you all ignored me?" He sighed like I was exhausting him. "You don't get it. We had plans that night. Dad's early retirement dinner. It wasn't personal." That word hit me like a slap. Wasn't personal. The air in my chest went tight. "You're saying the same night I asked everyone to come out for me, you were all out together?" He hesitated, then muttered, "It was already planned." I closed my eyes, letting the truth settle in. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd just chosen not to come. Not even out of spite, out of convenience. I could hear voices in the background, laughter, plates clinking. He was probably calling from their house. My family together again, minus me. My voice shook when I finally spoke. You could have just told me I wasn't worth celebrating. He tried to talk, but I didn't wait. I hung up before he could twist it into another excuse. The silence that followed wasn't heavy this time. It was clean, final. For once, I hadn't stayed to make things easier for them. I'd walked away first. The morning after that call, something inside me shifted. I didn't wake up angry, just empty, like I'd finally run out of excuses for them. I opened my phone and started scrolling through old photos. Family barbecues, holidays, fake smiles. One by one I deleted them. The only ones I kept were the rare moments that still felt honest. Me and Dad fishing before things got complicated, Mom laughing before she learned how to weaponize silence. Everything else vanished with a few taps. Next, I opened the HR portal at work. Under Emergency Contact, I erased my mother's number and typed Naomi's. She'd been there through the late nights, the quiet breakdowns in my car, the promotion dinner I never got to celebrate. When I told her what I'd done, she didn't try to fix it, she just said, "About time." It was the first time someone stood beside me without asking me to bend. That weekend, I started rearranging my apartment. The picture frames came down, the decorative bowl Mom gave me went straight to the donation box. Even the quilt from Mark's wedding disappeared into a storage bin. The place looked different, bare but clean. For once, everything inside those walls belonged entirely to me. On a whim, I booked a weekend trip to the mountains. Just me, a small cabin, and quiet I didn't have to earn. I hiked, read, sat by a fire until the stars blurred overhead. I cried once, hard, sudden, but it wasn't grief anymore. It felt like something washing out of me, leaving space for air, for light. When I drove home on Sunday, the city looked softer, calmer. I wasn't healed, not yet. But I wasn't theirs anymore either. A month passed in quiet routine before the email arrived. The subject line read, "Dad's retirement celebration, family only." My mom's name glowed at the top, her message short and formal, like I was some distant relative. "Hope you can make it." For a minute, I hovered over the delete button. I could have ignored it, let the silence stand. But something in me hesitated. That evening I told Naomi. She leaned against my desk, arms crossed. "You should go," she said. "Not for them, for you. Walk in there knowing they don't get to define you anymore." Her words stayed with me. It wasn't about revenge. It was about ending the story on my own terms. So I bought a dress, simple, black, elegant. Not for attention but armor. On the night of the party, I drove to the venue alone. The parking lot was full, laughter spilling out of the windows. My heart thudded, but my hands didn't shake this time. When I walked in, heads turned. My mother's smile froze halfway. My dad stood near a banner that said, "Congratulations, Frank." He looked older than I remembered, smaller somehow. I approached him slowly, handed him a white envelope and said, "Congratulations on retiring, Dad." He opened it right there. Inside was a card that read, "Congrats on retiring. I'm done working for you too." No yelling followed. No scene. Just silence. The kind that fills a room when truth lands heavier than anger. I smiled politely, nodded to a few stunned faces and turned to leave. By the time I reached my car, the sound of laughter had died behind me. I didn't need to look back to know the room was still frozen. For the first time in my life, I wasn't walking away in shame. I was walking away free. The messages started pouring in the next day. Voicemails, texts, even emails from cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years. My mother's tone shifted with every call. First outrage, then guilt, then pleading. "We just want to talk, Tess." Mark followed with his usual mix of anger and self-pity. "You've really hurt Dad. He didn't deserve that." But every word sounded hollow now, like background noise from a house I'd already left behind. I didn't respond. Not once. I muted their numbers, archived their messages, and let the silence speak for me. Naomi sat with me one evening as I filled out the paperwork for my legal name change. It wasn't dramatic, just quiet, deliberate. I dropped Marlowe, the name that had always felt borrowed, and replaced it with my grandmother's maiden name, Tanner. She was the only person who'd ever loved me without keeping score. Signing that form felt like exhaling after years underwater. From there, life began to take shape again. My promotion turned into a new role, one I actually loved. I started looking at houses, found a small 2-bedroom with creaky floors and sunlight that spilled through every window. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Evenings became softer. I learned how to cook meals for one, not as a reminder of loneliness but as proof I could sustain myself. Music filled the spaces where arguments used to live. There were moments of sadness, sure, but they came and went like passing rain. One night, sitting in my new kitchen, I realized something that stopped me cold. Peace hadn't come from forgiving them. It had come from finally letting go, from accepting that some ties only weigh you down. I wasn't healing to prove a point anymore. I was just living, and for the first time that was enough. Months passed quietly, the kind of calm that didn't feel temporary anymore. My days were full, steady: work, coffee with Naomi, walks through my new neighborhood. I wasn't thinking about them much, not really. But one evening, while cleaning up old files on my phone, I opened the Venmo app without meaning to. There was. The history list scrolled past random payments, groceries, gas, a split bill or two, until I saw it. One sent to Elaine Marlowe. Status: completed. It had been months, but seeing it again stopped me cold. The note still sat beneath it, clear and sharp. This should cover my seat at the party I wasn't invited to. I traced the words with my thumb, remembering how my hands shook the night I sent it. Back then it felt like a scream into the void. Now it looked different, like a bookmark in the story of who I used to be. That tiny coin, smaller than a thought, had marked the exact moment my life began to turn. 1 cent for years of silence, for every ignored effort, for the empty chair at that restaurant table. A laugh escaped me, quiet, almost disbelieving. I closed the app, locked my phone, and sat in the stillness. The apartment glowed faintly with the evening light, my space, my peace. I whispered to myself, worth every cent. It wasn't about proving anything anymore. That penny had never been the revenge. The real victory was standing here now, unattached, unbroken, finally free. Do you think I made the right choice by walking away, or should I have tried to forgive them? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe.